Diego Cordovez with Adam Schoenfeld. We're at Bellagio, bringing you the scoop. A lot of people don't know that you were going to be the color man on the ESPN broadcasts, and then you were too busy.
I had a problem with the rider. They weren't going to provide the kind of catering that I demand, so I passed.
And you recommended
Norman Chad.
And
I said, you put Chad in there, he's going to be dynamite.
You put that Chad kid on.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, Norm Chad, more than almost any other figure, has become like a lightning rod in the poker community. And he does his shtick, which is very harmless for the most part, and he's managed to infuriate a bunch of players.
I think that's calmed down a little bit. I think people have gotten used to the fact that this is a real thing, and the commentator is going to make piquant remarks, and you just have to live with it.
And but he's a very funny guy, very good guy, who's been around a long time, columnist for USA Today and The National and a bunch of other papers. And even though they keep getting rid of him, then he shows up somewhere else. And now he's got the ESPN.
He's got a long-term deal. Now, the one thing that I've told him time and again is I don't want to see him without a collared shirt, and
right.
I want the mustache gone, and I like to see a different haircut. But he won't budge.
He's like one of those guys, you've seen him, and he's always had the same.
He's got his look
for a while.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a lot of fun and interesting to talk to him. It's not just your usual, give us a bad beat story from yesterday's tournament. So you've made your mark doing the poker telecast on ESPN with your acerbic wit, but you're also a player, longtime player in LA, and you've played 3 of the tournaments here at the World Series. Have people turned the tables on you with directing some comments or seeking some sort of revenge for your analysis?
Well, the people who don't like me don't tell me that.
Okay,
they're very polite. And the people who do like me are very pleasant, and they want me to be entertaining at the table. They don't shoot at me like they'll shoot after a big player. If Jamie Gold sits down, everyone wants to get a piece of him, for instance. With me, I'm just a part-time player, so it's not like. And after a few minutes of dealing with me at the table, they'll see that I'm not the prick that I might seem to be, away from the table.
But do you feel pressure? They want you to be your on-air persona with your comments about your wives and young players and squadouche.
I wouldn't call it pressure. And actually, when I'm playing poker anyway, I'm always having a good time and always talking. So it's no different than that. There might be a little uneasiness at the beginning because no one wants to talk to me because it's just ridiculous because I'm doing it on ESPN. I mean, it's not exactly like I cured polio and found a vaccine.
Yeah.
But then after that initial awkwardness, it just becomes natural. And actually, sometimes I start drinking wine like I do when I'm playing in Los Angeles, and it just becomes fun.
You're not like these comedians that when they're away from the mic, they don't want any pressure to perform. Like Johnny Carson, I always heard if he wasn't on the show, people would be like, "Hey, Johnny," he'd be like, "I'm not being paid now."
Right.
This is just a natural thing.
It is natural, and actually, you're right. A lot of comedians, like Johnny, are that way. Others are on all the time. I would be somewhere in between, like Brad Garrett, who I watched during his main event. He's on all the time, and most of it is not printable or publishable, and it's extraordinarily funny. But he is on all the time, and it's fun to be around.
Those comics, and I haven't met Brad Garrett, so I'm not speaking about him, but it might apply to him. Those comics who are on all the time, that's scary. Because it's like, where's the real person underneath there?
What I think happens, Adam, is that actually at some point they might have decided to be on all the time, and then it became second nature, and so you don't know what the real the second
they
nature.
Don't know who they are.
And that might become who they are, and I don't know. I couldn't sleep with Rickles.
Cary Grant said that he started playing this role, and eventually he just became the role, which is clear. I mean, he wasn't the erudite British guy, but he made a mark that way, and then eventually he didn't even remember what it was like
Grant.
before. A little poker reference.
All the kids love that.
We talk about,
usually you feel like you have to explain all these. Who was that?
We talk
he was
about
an actor.
He was back in Sam Moon and Bobby Brazil's time.
Yeah.
Playing with Puggy and Slim.
Well, even before
he was
that.
George Clooney before George Clooney, and
right.
He actually had more civilized air to him.
Now, Norm, before you leapt to prominence as a poker analyst, you were a television sports columnist and critic, and you still are.
Yeah, actually, I still write a weekly sports humor column, which is largely based on watching television all day.
That's you have the 2 greatest jobs anyone could ever have. It doesn't really require much work.
I make no apologies, and I went to a bad school, University of Maryland. I got a degree in American Studies. I have no idea what that is.
Very useful.
And
I almost majored in that.
Practical.
So one morphed into the other. My full-time job was sitting on a couch watching television, and now my other full-time job is sitting in a studio watching poker players on a television
and making
set.
a few comments.
Yeah, I'm allowed to make a few comments.
Are you familiar with what I call Sportscaster irony?
No, it's Sportscaster irony.
That's the use of the word ironic.
Incorrectly?
Totally, and not just incorrectly, with no relation to the actual meaning. So this is an example of something I actually heard, and it's so long ago that I sometimes convince myself it couldn't actually have happened, but I know it did. The announcer says the following: "You know, it's ironic because Kirby Puckett got a hit last time up, and he got a hit this time up."
I heard you're
that.
making that up.
No,
I've heard 1,000 bad uses of ironic. That one actually
he said
number
that.
one with a bullet.
Yeah.
Well, that is a little ironic when you think about it, because the whole thing, the way it works.
Irony and coincidence have started to mean the same thing.
Oh, yeah,
and it's very common. These guys are like, Chase Utley led the league in hits last year. Ironically, in 1996, his teammate
right.
Ron Howard led the league in it.
It's the use of the word ironic to mean anything that's somehow connected to something else, but not even rising to the level of coincidence.
No,
That's
correct. Correct. And actually, if you can see that I had to sit there and watch. I mean, I would watch every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, particularly on weekends. I would watch 6 or 8 hours of sports television. 6 or 8 hours a day. You think it's exhausting sitting at a poker table, and it is. But with my notebook, watching that all day, and you'd literally want to blow your brain.
See, with the exception of the Notebook, I watch 12 to 18 hours of television every day, sports television every day.
Voluntarily.
Yeah. I've cut down in recent years.
TV.
So if I bring up some sportscasters, are you going to feel free to give your opinion, or are you going to feel like it's not?
I've always given my opinion since I become, however, paid by ESPN.
Right, I'm not going to bring up ESPN.
I don't talk about ESPN
Right.
people as much.
I'm not going to bring up ESPN people. The worst sportscaster working today, Jim Nance. Comments.
Nance, several friends of mine agree with you, Adam. They call me up and they leave me long voicemails about what are you going to do about Jim Nance and when are you going to do it.
I mean, I am on the verge of self-injury.
I've always thought he did a solid job. I've wavered on him in recent years. There's almost so much like a false piety to what he's doing. It's like a reverence there. Even the way he says, welcome to the master's friends. Friends is his key word. He's not, who's friends with him?
Every time.
So there's something there that doesn't seem right.
Every time it's friends. But the thing is, he is very solid, very well prepared, very knowledgeable. There's no question about
I agree
that.
on all those points.
His thing is, here comes Norman Chad up the 18th fairway, and with the weight of the world on his shoulders, he's managed to fight through for his 14th place position. His sister had a hangnail. She's been treating it all week, and that has to be weighing on his mind. And now, we're not that far off from really what he's doing.
No, you're right, and actually you bring up another thing about they love to talk about the pressure of these things, and that reminds me of the old Lee Trevino line about there's no pressure at the 72nd hole at Augusta National. He used to say pressure is playing $100 Nassau with $20 in your pocket, and he's absolutely right, and that's why I have a lot more respect for poker players than I ever did for gamblers, golfers.
Pressure's playing the World Series of Poker, where you've pieced yourself out 300%, and
now you're going to win.
Hit a few hands and cash.
Bugsy Siegel would have done that if the World Series were around in the 1930s.
Unfortunately, we've heard stories about certain guys.
Yeah, doing it right now.
And that they accidentally end up in the cash, and then what?
So you are one of the key figures in poker, but you've managed to not totally immerse yourself in the world. So that's good for you because you still play for fun and you still enjoy it.
True.
Whereas some of us, we hate it and we have to do it anyway.
Not yet, but close.
Yeah.
Some guys.
No, I'm an accidental key figure. As I tell people, I was just a passenger in the getaway car when the poker thing
All the
started.
best stories are guys who are in the right place at the right time and then capitalized, and that's
Correct.
what you did.
But I think Bill Gates also did something really, really smart that none of us would have been able to.
He bought an operating system for $50,000 and then parlayed it.
Right. So
I knew you were going to denigrate his accomplishments.
No.
The guy only plays like 3-6.
Yeah.
How smart can he be?
How good can he be? He doesn't bet over his head.
I'm curious about one thing you said, which is that the people who are nice to you, the people who are fans of yours are nice to you. The people who aren't, just stay away or don't comment, because you definitely are a lightning rod, and a lot of prominent players have been disturbed by your comments. I mean, they've lived in a cocoon, I suppose, never subject to criticism, never being in the public eye, and they've made their threats in print or secondhand, but none of them have come to talk to you about their
very few, and I don't expect them to. It's like not in their best political interest to come forward and say I think you're a jerk or I think you're terrible. I'm well aware, not just pros. I'm well aware of viewers who also don't like my approach. It's just some are going to like it, some are not going to like it.
Well, that's inevitable. But among players you're working with them, you're in the same vicinity.
Yes, and one of the early ones who did come forward was Mike Matusow,
Really?
and actually publicly he would dress me down in front of other people and say all the problems he had with me. And Josh Aryeh was another one who early on came publicly. He started a website and she was trying to fire me.
Yeah. That didn't work.
Well, I told him, actually, I talked to Josh, and I told him there are 20 or 30 reasons eventually why I will get fired, but the website is not one of them.
I mean, the thing is, and Diego talked about this, these guys were not used to having any public attention, and they just couldn't deal with the idea that when you do something in front of the camera, there it is. You've been laid bare, and it wasn't. You didn't make them act the way they did,
Correct.
and you didn't edit it, and no one edited it to make them look bad. Those things are shown. That happened. Now, yeah, there's a greater context of life, but it didn't matter. It's not your fault that people act the way they do.
Actually, yeah. Although I disagree with you slightly in the sense that I think that things are edited in a certain fashion, not to completely make someone look bad, but I mean they're edited to create a storyline, and in some cases to create a persona. But Norm's part in the process is providing commentary, and in fact you're being edited by the powers
Correct.
that be. You're not the guy who's deciding what the themes are going to be or what the storylines are going to be.
Eric Molina came to me, and it turns out that he was acting like Mother Teresa, and that was all digitally enhanced by Norm.
By Norm, right?
Yeah.
Norm is the messenger.
Yeah.
Norm is not the,
Actually, we and Eric didn't realize this. We had set up an IV with vodka going into his arm, and so he didn't even know he was drinking 14% alcohol.
When you watch that last year with Eric Molina, it's an amazing performance. But when he's drunk, he played super well and was running over tables and making great thin calls. And then on the last day, when maybe his mommy had talked to him or something,
Apparently something changed.
Yeah, he was perfectly behaved and played very poorly and was out. So
you should stick to your own.
But in defense of the poker players who get mad, I will say this. Again, they're thrust into a situation they had never seen before. So they always had played poker. So once the cameras are there and you're wired up, you're not used to it, and you are going to think there's a conspiracy against you. Things do get edited to follow a certain story. But again, certain things are said, and then if someone does something weird, they're going to show it.
But yeah, just my point, which I didn't say well before, is that all the editing in the world does not change the basic facts that we're seeing.
You still have to give them some material to work with, of course. But there is some manipulation in terms of how people are presented. And I mean, Mike and Josh, I think, are good examples. I mean, I like both of those guys.
So do I.
And yes, they certainly had bad moments, but then again, the bad moments are compiled in a way to make them the villain in the story. And then again, they've also capitalized on that. I mean,
no one's benefiting more than Mike.
Yeah, being a villain pays better than being a nice guy, as we all know.
Oh, no question. I think Mussolini benefited from that a lot. And if he were around now, the video would even make him look better.
He had a lot of endorsements, a lot of airtime. It's interesting because you say these two guys confronted you publicly, and in a sense that only exacerbates the situation, only proves the point against them. But I'm surprised that no player has kind of come to you privately to say, hey, Norm, away from all the grandstanding, I was concerned by this, or I didn't think this was fair.
I will say this. On several occasions, players have come to me privately to tell me that pretty much when it comes to the strategy and analysis of Tournament Hold'em, that I have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. In so many words.
Which is a
fair and I'm sympathetic to them. I tell them, by the way, even in games in which I do know more what I'm talking about, I tend to stay away from analysis. So in Tournament Hold'em, I certainly don't want to analyze because I really don't know.
One of your strengths is that you're not pretending to be an expert at No Limit Hold'em.
That's what I keep telling them, but they look at it differently.
That would be a very weak product, But you analyze it to the level you analyze it, and that's not your shtick. That's not your game.
That's what's funny is that you rarely are making strategic criticisms. I mean, all this controversy is built around your analysis of people's personalities, their behavior, their interactions.
Correct.
I mean, it's very rare where you're saying, how could he make that call? And so it's kind of a misguided criticism when people are focusing on that aspect.
You do hold yourself out as a game theory expert.
Yes, I do.
and later there's going to be a colloquium with Norm, Bill Chen, and some other high-level math guys, and Norm's going to be actually the speaker, and they're going to be...
actually, I won it was a three-handed game. It was between William Chen, Phil Gordon, and myself, where they put up what the hands were, and we had to shout out, 8 outs! 8 outs 2 times! And I beat Chen and Phil Gordon I mean, it's not on video anywhere, but I beat them about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Phil Chen kept screwing up the arithmetic and...
Oh, you take him away from a calculator, he can't do it in his head.
He's got guys helping him with those books, doing all the calculations. Yeah,
that's just he's just playing a game theory expert, as is Norm.
We've hit on the same theme ad nauseum, which is how television's affected the players, and we blame you
personally.
As ESPN's representative, the same way that these guys blame you for the way the broadcasts are edited or the themes are presented. But the fact is that the guys you mentioned, for example, Mike Matizow, I've known Mike and played against him since around 98, 99, and he's always been the same. And for good or bad, that really is Mike. The guys that bother me are the guys who used to be nice guys And then when the ESPN camera rolls around, all of a sudden they're gesticulating and they're putting their costumes on or they're dancing and gyrating.
Oh, well, I actually argue all the time with the producers over a great example, and he's a nice guy, is Umberto Brenes.
Yes.
Okay? Umberto used to be
Great guy.
like the Mother Teresa of Costa Rica, or the Harpo Marx of Costa Rica.
And he is away from the table.
And he is. And then now there's been an evolution because of the cameras, because of he's trying to sell now card protectors, whatever the thing is. But Umberto, it's like Cirque du Soleil, a one-man Cirque du Soleil, and I don't like it. And it's because of the cameras. In most of the cases, like you say, with Mike DeMouth or Helmuth, that's the way they were before the cameras came around.
Always.
But with someone like Umberto, it seems to me it's staged for us, and I like to try to avoid that.
And he's got his chark. Yeah, I don't like that.
Well, he and I think very, very highly of him. It's
so do
too
I.
bad to pick up him out, but it's fair in that he holds up the action. He'll call all in, and he'll hold up, call the cameras over from across the room, and then reveal that he's got the nuts or the aces or whatever. And if you're the other guy whose dream has just ended on day 3,
Right.
This is just like prolonging your agony. I mean, just digging the knife in.
It's unfortunate because Umberto is a great player. His results are spectacular in the main event. Every year he's deep. He takes a beat, or in the Chris Moneymaker year, or else he could win the
3 final tables this year.
But maybe he's getting bad counsel, or maybe he's getting good counsel because he could be capitalizing.
Right. We're not. Other people aren't capitalizing enough. I mean, if you're your Alan Cunningham or Eric Seidel, guys who are champions, they don't have the profile that some of these other guys. And actually, Umberto's a legitimate player, but I mean, there are guys who have no accomplishments whatsoever who are getting more airtime and more followers than anyone. No, I don't even. Guys,
I know what you're talking about. I know. The funny thing is that I've gotten tons of time in your The Nuts segment, and this year they're going to change it to The Nut Sack. They told me, so now other players, not the well-known players, but the people you see in the main event who maybe come out once a year for the main event, they expect me to be doing my shtick at the table, and I don't do any of that at the table.
You used to do the shtick.
No. I do that with people I know because that is.
So your nuts persona is expected to translate to the table,
right? And I'm just like I don't have anything. I'm more like the Johnny Carson. I got nothing now. I'm not getting paid.
Maybe they want like some comedians when they're out, people want to see certain routines.
Right.
Like you're sitting there, they're like, talk about the tattoos.
Oh no, that has happened. That exact routine has come up several times.
Hey,
Hey, what did you say about the poker tattoos? I don't know.
Do your bit again.
Yeah. I got a 5-minute hunk on poker tattoos, and then I do my thing about driving in a parkway.
Right. Do the one about the rabbi and the... Well,
yeah,
I didn't mean to point you out, but I mean, there were a lot of... especially a lot of the younger guys. I mean, a couple of years ago, there was one guy at the final table. Every time he had the hand, he was thrusting and yelling,
popping and locking,
and say what you will, but
no, there's a reason.
Getting the attention
in courts of law. This has been a long argument about keeping television cameras out of trials, and you would think that we should. In a democracy with you want all the information you can, you put the cameras in there. I've always been an advocate of keeping the cameras out. Anytime you put a camera anywhere, you change the behavior.
Right.
It's that simple.
Heisenberg, the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, right?
The HUP. What the hell's that?
In physics, the presence of the observer influences the results. You know this also
that
from
is
University of Maryland, right? When you studied with Lefty Drizel, some of the other great professors there.
See, instead of taking the advanced physics course,
like Michael Bigger,
Norm took physics for American Studies majors,
right?
Which is the entry.
No equations.
Actually, one of the courses I had to take was sociology of the soap opera. That was American Studies.
Yeah, University of Maryland. Yeah. Now, Vern Lundquist, I think he's fantastic, though.
Actually, Vern, and I just had an email exchange with Vern because I usually criticizing sportscasters.
Right.
I did my column is called Couch Slouch. So I did a list of slouch sweeties, like 15 or 20 people that I like. And Vern...
Those are like your diper dandies.
They were like my diaper dandies, exactly. Except without all the other nicknames.
Yeah, right.
Vern was on that list because Vern,
he's so good.
It's just... It's hard to not listen to Vern's voice. He doesn't get in the way of the product.
He's a pro.
He's like an uncle who you like to come over and hang out. Now, he is a pro.
He's very sharp.
Now, a guy who had become a parody, but who I think is very good and has toned down his act to where now the pendulum has swung where he's totally underrated, is Brent Musburger.
Yes.
Brent's another one I go back and forth on. And Brent, by the way, talking about taking
when
criticism,
he was the lead guy, it was no good. He was no good. But now that he's just a solid working,
he's a bit like
what Brent does. You want Brent to do any event because Brent will always make the next moment of that event sound like the most important thing of that day or of your life.
I'm trying to do that on the show. Starting out by you're looking live at the live
you have a ways to go.
Yeah, you could start with modulating your voice.
But Brent, by the way, I'm talking about criticism. Brent has taken a million shots over the years. But Brent, the great thing about him is that he reads it all and he absorbs it all, and he just goes up to the guy and he says, "Oh, I see you killed me again the other day. Nice job." He takes it pretty well.
But like a lot of athletes, he was so long overrated, he became underrated.
Right.
Sometimes a guy's so criticized, like Derek Jeter on the defense or whatever. Eventually, it became he's the worst of all time, and that's not the case. And now he's getting credit for surpassing the expectations.
And actually, Brent had to rebuild his career. He was from the Pinnacle CBS. He was fired on it was April Fool's Day, like 1990 or 91.
Night before
and he was their lead guy and everything. And the night before the Final Four,
Yeah.
they said, "This is it for you." And then he had to, he went to
it was a
ABC.
practical joke.
Why would he think it's a practical? It was April Fool's, and he was on TV more.
The lesson in the Brent Musburger story: don't have your brother as your agent.
He still does have him.
Yeah.
They actually have something going on one of these media websites right now. I don't know if you guys have seen. They have a bracket, obviously referencing ESPN's ridiculous brackets of who's next or who's in or whatever, and it's most annoying ESPN personality. And they have voting going on every day, and they've got Dick Vitale, and they've got all the different guys being going up against each other. One guy that I like, and I'm prepared for the criticism because he gets a lot of shots as well, is Gus Johnson. You have any thoughts on?
I am not.
You're
fond
not a fan.
Well, Gus, there's guys. Gus Johnson's one of them. Kevin Harlan's another one.
Yeah.
Who they're shouters, and they like the great thing about Marv Albert is he knows when the big moments are, he knows when the little moments are. He ramps it up when he's supposed to. Gus will ramp it up over a loose ball foul, 8 minutes into the first quarter.
In the Fordham St. Bonaventure.
Yeah, so it's just I don't know where's he supposed to go when it gets really really big. I don't know.
Marv Albert is the greatest play-by-play man of all time, and that's indisputable. And I will brook no disagreement.
Okay, a few things are indisputable and inarguable and incontrovertible.
But this is one of
them.
them.
That might be one of them. I mean, he can call anything at any time as well as anybody.
We both grew up in New York watching him on the Rangers, the Knicks, every day to the 5 p.m., the 6 p.m. on NBC, which is kind of amazing that he was working the same thing.
He's always been a workaholic, so
he's about 90 now, and he's still going everywhere, doing everything. And so, talk about guys resuscitating their careers.
Yeah, actually, he took the big blow because of the whole business with the backbiting or the scratching and all that, and he had to, he lost his job for a while, and he's made it back up, and he should have made it back up, by the way. There's just no reason for him to go away.
It seems
karma.
To me,
the Knicks have not made the playoffs since.
Dolan vision.
Well, I was going to say, since Charles Dolan bought the team, it seems to me, just getting back to the World Series, but it seems to me that this year there just haven't been great storylines. Phil Hellmuth winning his 11th bracelet, very dramatic, very exciting. But other than that, it hasn't been an easy one in terms of just covering and looking for good stuff.
No, it hasn't been. It's been a mix. Of course, this year actually a handful of younger players after the youngest guy won the very first No Limit event.
Right.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
But then there was no. You're right. There was no trend. We had a little more, I think, European presence with some Germans winning and whatever.
And they're a laugh a minute.
They are.
You're doing a full special show on that on ESPN on the German invasion.
Jean von whatever and Kafka.
And you could come up with your nicknames like Field Marshal,
right? The Blitzkrieg.
But no, it has been more. It has been more problematic. We obviously have more events than ever and more people coming than ever. But there hasn't been one thing you pinpoint.
Harris tried to help you out by having 55 events and tons of stuff. And actually, there were some controversies that players care about. With the bad cards, with the bad structures, horrible floor decisions, and just bad rulings. Actually, on yesterday's show or a couple of days ago, we talked about dealers counting out the pot and stacking the pot, which is against the rules. I read online that yesterday in the main event, there was a pot that was all spread, and the player asked the dealer if they could spread the pot because it was kind of a lump, and there were chips underneath, and the dealer said, "I'm not allowed to. You'll just deal with it there." So you're getting both extremes. You're getting dealers counting the pot, which is, absurd, and now you're getting dealers who have the pot where you can't see if there are any big chips in it or not, asking you to make your decision based on that information. But none of this stuff is, this is like arcane stuff that we care about, but that for the national telecast is just not interesting, and you need some controversy, some fight, something. Maybe you have to pay people to set themselves on fire.
When they do the non-hold'em games, like Stud, for example, one of their innovations is instead of having like a 7, they just have a cartoon character because they felt like that would be more.
Yeah, it's like Peter Puck on old hockey television.
Yes,
you have to hope for something on the main event.
Peter Puck, that's awesome.
You have to hope for something on the main event. Last year, Jamie Gold was a great character because he had all the stuff going, all the table talk, and he was an easy guy to kind of present as a villain. And that's, I guess, the hope for this year. Well,
they almost every time one door closes, another one opens, and I'm confident in the main event that somebody or more than one person will emerge as a lightning rod figure.
Right.
It almost always happens.
Last thing before we go, congratulations, you were just married.
Oh, thank you very much.
This is your 5th wedding?
This is it's the 3rd wedding officially. The 2 annulments in Bolivia we do not count.
Yeah, all right.
So this is the 3rd marriage, and
Fantastic.
I think this one's going to stick.
Fantastic. And actually, you were married on the main floor of the main event.
I had the pleasure of getting married on the main floor, at the main stage at the ESPN final table.
At least you didn't make a mockery of a sacred proceeding, and the officiant was a ESPN producer.
The ESPN producer got ordained online the night before from the latter-day top set.
Is this just because of your reverence for the World Series of Poker, just convenience because you work so much? Or
it was a combination. The woman I married is a chef caterer. She ends up catering our crew. We're here every summer. This is the ESPN people. The poker family is my real family. My own family rejected me. I can't. I mean, I go to Thanksgiving. It's a drive-through window my mother set up. I can't even go into the house anymore.
I feel like I said that one before.
Anyway, I'm just telling you. So we just figured we're here all summer. We were first going to do it ceremonial on the day off, which was Monday, July 9th. They took it away, so we figured out a thing. So let's do it for real, and it was just a lot of fun because this is where we are every year.
Congratulations,
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us, and we look forward to all the broadcasts and this year's coverage.
I'm going to go outside and find a real chair to sit on.
Thanks. Join us tomorrow on The Scoop. Take care.